Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, this is going to be the most interesting video I think I've ever made. I just had the most life-changing experience of my entire life. And this one literally came out of left field. It came out of nowhere. I have a gut feeling, a really strong feeling that this video is going to help a lot of you with a life problem or life challenge that you have had your entire life. And I think it's going to free me and free my power, or free my abilities, my skills, the things that I've developed over the years and learned and practiced, etc. And I think it will eventually have the same thing happen to you too. Alright, here we go. Okay, so I just got back home about an hour ago, and man, it's like my adrenaline, my endorphins are going. So I went out shopping, had to get a couple things, wanted to get some chicken, get some food, get some mouthwash, just basic stuff. So I'm walking into Walgreens. It's a store here where you can buy stuff, just basic stuff from candy to mouthwash. They have a pharmacy in there, so it's like a drugstore essentially. So there was a guy just left of the door, about 3 feet, let's say, and he was looking at me, looking like, oh, guy's gonna hit me up for some money. It's a homeless person, blah blah blah. And I'm kind of high, and I'm being polite and stuff, and I thought, you know what? I can give this guy $1, no big deal. So he said something, and I said, you know, and I was in a very positive. Hey, do you want $1? And he goes, no. He goes, because he goes, yeah, I want money, but I don't want $1. I'm thinking like, what? He goes, do you have Cash App? I'm like, Cash App? He goes, yeah, it's an app where you can like send like friends and family cash. I'm like, I go, no, honestly, I don't have that. He goes, oh, okay, don't worry about it. I'm like, well, what were you going to do? He goes, well, he goes, I want to get some money, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I go, dude, I can't. I don't have Cash App. I go, does it accept PayPal? He goes, no. I'm like, so the only way you can get, he goes, well, there's other ways, but like essentially, like you have to wait 2 days, but I have to wait. And he goes, don't worry about it. So apparently if you have Cash App to Cash App, it's instant, but if it's done through a bank or a card or something else, then it takes 2 days to go through. So here's what happened. Man, this is a trip. It's like, you ever read in the Bible or from people who are like, sometimes you're not talking to a person, you're talking to an angel? Okay, so alright, so I do energy healing. When I say I do it, I mean I literally do it, go through energy healing sessions myself, okay? And I did one about 5-6 days ago. And as usual, it brought up emotions and just dark, emotional pain and memories, and that's how it clears. It brings this stuff up so you can fully go through it, and that's how you heal it. See, avoiding your pain, now you don't heal it that way. You have to go through the fire. You have to feel the emotions to the fullness. Well, as you go through these clearings, you have different realizations. You begin to hear things and see things and understand things in a completely different way. Now, these clearings are not easy. I'm going to be really upfront. It's probably one of the toughest things you will ever do in your entire life. In fact, what you went through with a narcissist, that's what these clearings are like. You go through, like, call it dark night of the soul, call it, what do you call it? The tower moment where everything comes crashing down, and that will happen. Like, things in your life, people will leave, people won't talk to you anymore. Like, it'll be like, it is a painful way to heal, but it's an effective way to heal. And during this process, you will have amazing realizations, and you'll be able to hear things for the first time in your life. Things that you have heard, that people have said to you, that motivational stuff, things like, hey, you really got to realize like how good you are at what you do, or what's another one? Like how far you've come. Like, I hear this all the time, like, man, you've really come a long ways. You've really turned things around. Like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. Like, I always thought, oh, they're being like I finally heard it for the first time. Now, this guy's homeless, and he's been homeless for a while, and he's got the smell, okay? And I look at his hands, and you can tell he's got, definitely got a drinking problem, because his hands are like reddish pink. He's a young guy. I would say he's about 30, maybe 32, something like that. I'm not quite sure what his age is. So he looked healthy. His hair was healthy. His skin was healthy, but he had that, like, when you drink too much and do drugs, your skin gets this, I don't know how to explain it, like your knuckles get white, but the skin is red. So anyways, this guy is a homeless person, and he's not doing too well, and yet he's not that bad off. I don't know how to explain that. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna see what's going on with this guy. We started talking, and he said, yeah, I'm addicted to drugs. And the thing about it, he's a really nice guy. Like, and he sounds well, he speaks well. And I remember I kind of took a step back and looked, because on the one hand you could tell his hands, but then you look at his face and the hair, like really thick hair, really like clear eyes, and a little off, maybe we'll say, but not bad at all. Now the whole time I'm thinking, okay, there's probably a demon in this guy if he's done, like he admitted he's done crystal meth, and he, to get off that he drinks alcohol, blah blah blah. So I'm like, okay, well, probably not the best thing, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to see if I can work with this guy, if we can get him off the drugs. So I'm just going with a basic thing going, so what's going on? Like why can't you get off? I go, it sounds ridiculous, but let's, what's going on? Because he goes, what do you do for a living? And I told him. He's like, oh, okay, well, maybe you can help me. And so I started doing some questioning, some NLP questions, and just kind of digging a little bit, trying to bring up to the surface, like, what is it? So he started sharing some stuff, and I actually understood. Now you gotta understand, I come from a background of, I hate drugs. It's all about health. It's all about nutrition. It's all about following, I don't want to say following the rules now, but being a good person and caring and doing the right thing. And this guy has just went down the wrong path. Now what led him there, it's kind of shocking, and not in a not shocking way. God, I'm doing my best to explain this story. So he starts talking about his problems and what's going on and how he can't get off the drugs. His girlfriend's in a hospital care thing. She has a spinal injury, and that's why he's in this area. She's one city up at the hospital, or I think she got transferred to like a care center. And I'm like, okay, so that's what brought you to this area. So he came up with what happened. We kind of dug around. He goes, I have fear of failure. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes. So he explained. Now this guy was educated in the tech world, and he's really, like, I could tell just by what he was talking, like, oh, this guy knows his shit. Like, this guy really, really knows his shit. Now he was just trying to give me an example of like what his problems. And so what's your problem? Like, He goes, well, I had this job, really good job. I'm okay. It was a tech job. And he tried to explain these other people like they were kind of like had their doctorate degree and etc. And he was in there, they were egotistical, and I just wanted to show them like, yeah, like you're not the only good one in the room at doing this stuff. So he designed this program that just blew everyone's mind, and it really was. Even as he was breaking, they're like, man, that's pretty brilliant. And so he started to explain. He goes, and I go, so what happened? He goes, well, I designed this little thing where like this program would just create songs, and I narrowed it all the way down to certain variables, and boom, not every song, but every now and then you get one song that wasn't perfect, but all the other ones were just mind-blowing, and people were like blown away. He goes, and I just did this whole variable thing in questions, and like, well, what is it, this, that, and he goes, it took me a while, but I got it all the way down to this one program, and boom, it was just knocking records out, like song out of the song, and they were just highly impressed, etc., etc. And I really helped this company turn around, etc., etc. So I said, so what's the problem? He's like, well, fear of failure. He goes, I'm just afraid that I'm not going to live up to the standard. And I'm like, what standard? What are you talking about? He goes, oh, like I'm not good enough and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I'm afraid people are going to steal my ideas. And he goes, it was overwhelming. And I'm like, what do you mean steal your ideas? He goes, like, well, when you introduce stuff, people will see it and then they will steal what you created. And I was like, oh, I can totally relate to that. He goes, what do you mean? I go, dude, well, I have like PDF books on my website, and all of them have been stolen by all these other. I mean, they paid for them, but then they put them up on their website and they sell them for like $5, or you can join the group for say $50 or $60 a year or something, and then you get to download like 3 books a month for free of anything you want. And they've stolen all these people's, even Tony Robbins stuff, etc. And there's nothing you can do, and it completely shut down my sales. It brought my sales down to almost complete halt. And I was like, and there's nothing. He goes, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. These people will steal anything you put out there. He goes, and there's nothing you can do about it. So like on my books, I put the whole copyright, there's like a list of things that I got from a lawyer that I put on there, and it's all legal and legit, but I don't have the money to hire a lawyer to go after them and I don't know what the rules are. I don't know how this works. So it's heartbreaking. All right. So I start sharing with him my understandings to help him to understand, like, oh, so you really, I go, yeah, dude, I really understand what you're talking about. Now, the whole time, even before he opened his mouth, I was like, oh, that guy's on drugs. He's probably a demon. He's probably a narcissist, probably blah, blah, blah. And I still kind of look at it like, oh, yeah, he might be. Now, here's the deal. This Walgreens, I've only been to twice in my life. I haven't been to that store in probably 2 years, at least a year. So I've never been there. I just pulled off the freeway. I was like, man, I got to go in there and grab something real quick on the way home. And I parked, and boom, I get out, and boom, he's right there. So he was there. It wasn't like, oh, I've been going to this place for 2 years, and so some narcissists can wait for me there. Okay. Now, again, it doesn't mean that he's not necessarily a narcissist. It just means like it's not a store that I've gone to on a regular basis at a certain time. So why would they wait there for me? So because of my the background of dealing with narcissists, like I'm a little, kind of paranoid. And just kind of like looking at like, okay, is he pulling any shit? What's going on? But it was none of that. So that's really not a part of the story, because like it would be like a place I haven't been in literally a year or more. So why would someone wait there? So I know that's not a factor here. So one thing that I do is when I begin to understand someone and where they're at, a lot of times just tell, oh, I understand. People are like, yeah, dude, there's no way you can fucking understand, right? It's kind of like narcissist abuse. Like, unless you've been through it, like there's no way. Because how many of you have talked to people about narcissist abuse who have never been through it? And they're like, oh, okay, whatever. And they look at it like, oh, okay, this guy's a little weird. Because it sounds nuts. Because narcissists are nuts. They're fucking crazy. Excuse my language. But then you meet that person and you start sharing your story, or maybe they share their story, and like, oh, I can totally relate to this person, because they're saying things exactly that you've been through, and you can relate, like, and they did this, and like, oh yeah, I went through that too, and boom, you guys can understand each other. So I'm basically questioning, like, hey, like, what led you down this path? And I'm looking for an issue to pop up is what I'm really doing, okay? And so I'm asking questions to lead us down the path of going, where's the issue? What is the issue? And so I started, because I could tell he was kind of looking at me like, yeah, you don't understand. Because I was like, yeah, man, I've never done crystal meth. Sorry, I just moved. So I've never done crystal meth or any heavy drug like that at all. Like, I just never done it. But what I have noticed, and I've really been consciously aware of, I don't know if it's been a year now or what, probably years. One thing that I realized about people that are hooked on drugs is there is an emotional pain there. There is something that just hurts. And it won't go away. You can't heal it. You can't fix it. You don't know what to do. So I start sharing with him some of the things that I've shared with you guys about the abuse and the shit I've been through. And he's just like, wow, he's looking at me. And I said, I've been through a lot of therapy and I'm healed, like a lot of it. But there's still that thing in there that's just like, fuck, I was like, so, and as I'm explaining it, he's looking at me. He's like, wow, like. So I said, look, I'm not trying to get you to feel sorry for me. What I'm trying to share is like, I get that there's something inside you that's eating you away, and you're just like, you just want to get rid of it, but you don't know how. He's like, yeah, he's like, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that. He goes, I had that job for a while and then I blew it. I don't think he told me what it was, but I'm sure he was doing drugs and eventually just, became an idiot and blew it. But the point being is like, he goes, you don't understand. Like, he goes, I'm so afraid of failing. But what he led me to, I don't explain this. The overall understanding blew my mind. But what he went through really wasn't mind-blowing. And yet I absolutely understood why this was so painful for him. And here's the thing. Some of you may not understand this. Like, oh, God. Because I realized, I'm telling you, probably even a week ago, maybe not a week ago, but maybe 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have looked at him and like, are you joking? Like, what? Like, what? So I'm sharing with him. So he starts giving me a little bit more information. I'm like, yeah, dude, I can totally relate to that. Now, a lot of people who've been through pain, they look at you like, dude, there's no way you can understand. And so I started sharing some of like the shit I went through. And he was like, holy shit. Now, I'm sharing piece by piece to help him realize some things of, where I'm at, what I understand, and that gnawing thing at your gut that you just don't want to go outside, you don't want to deal with people, etc., etc. So here was a guy that was obviously brilliant, talented, very good at what he does, and I mean really good at what he does. And yet he was ashamed of himself. He was hiding from the world. He was hiding from himself. And he just didn't feel good enough. Now here's where this entire thing is going to take a 180-degree turn. Or a 180-degree U-turn. So I'm doing my questioning patterns, digging deep into like, well, like what's causing this? Where does this come from? And what he told me was like, what? Now I'm telling him stories about my mother burning my hand on the stove when I was 6 years old and beating me, and just the insanity of what I went through, the brutality. And he tells me the complete opposite. And I'm like, what? So here's the deal. One thing when it comes to narcissist abuse, it's like, okay, you know how I was talking about, what was it, particles? That there's like a complete opposite particle, and it could be at the other end of the universe, and it feels what you feel what it feels. Well, it's the same thing in parts integration. So let's say a part comes up that's like, oh, I can't do that. And like, okay, well, what's a complete and total opposite of that? I mean, the total opposite, not like 1 or 2 steps over, but I'm talking like millions of steps, complete total opposite, like the flip side of the coin, the flip side of a card. Like, what's the other side, the complete opposite? And that's how you integrate parts. Okay, I've had a theory and a feeling and a belief for 4 years now that narcissists are like the dark side of you, like they are the complete opposite of an empath. And it's like that video I made about how physicists says, like, there's like a particle at the complete opposite that like instantly has a react. It's like they say this, like, if this particle moves a millimeter, that one moves a millimeter. If this one spins 80 miles an hour, that one spins. It's like it's the complete opposite, but has a direct correlation connection. Now, as I'm talking to this guy and he tells me his story, I'm having this really weird... In clearing, you have this energy shift inside you, and you're like, whoa, like this is like consciousness is coming. So here's what he tells me, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to say it. It was such a like, what? So he tells me he had this really loving mother. She genuinely cared for him. She was kind. She was good. And he said, no matter what I did, she would tell the neighbors. She would call my cousins, my aunts, my uncles. Oh, you're not going to believe what he did today. He's amazing. He did this amazing thing. He goes, Mike, I could learn a new guitar riff. One little thing that was not even hard to learn. And she would call the neighbors. She would call my family, call my cousins and grandparents and tell them how amazing I am. She acted like I was Mozart when I was this first year guitar student barely plucking the strings. So when I was telling them how I used to work so hard at everything, like insane, I literally said like a little Navy SEAL, like running 7 miles in the morning, doing 200 push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, etc., etc. I go straight A student, blah blah blah, for so many years. And he goes, yeah. He goes, you did that because you wanted them to like you. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted, to be good enough. And so he's telling me that when he would do an accomplishment, his mother would just like make it sound like this over the top thing. He was maybe graduated from high school or got a college degree, or but she would make it out to be like I was this just unbelievable being. And I said, yeah, kind of like if you first learned how to hit a baseball, your mother's going to make it out like you just won the World Series. He goes, yes. And I said, she set the bar so high that no matter how good you did, like, you're never going to live up to being Lou Gehrig. You're never going to live up to being freaking like the World Series champion pitcher, because it's like, that's where she, like, in everyone's mind, that's where you're at. And he goes, yeah, he goes, Michael, no matter what I did, it was never good enough. He goes, there's no way I could reach that high standard. Now, here's the funny thing. He looked at me, he goes, man, when I told him my stuff, he goes, man, that is a whole different level of pain. And I immediately said, yeah, but it doesn't matter, because it's like, now here's the weird thing. Here he was telling me how much his mother loved him, spoke well of him. And I go, and I first I like, oh, do you think she did that on purpose to be me? He goes, no. He goes, Michael, she just really, really thought highly of me. And so I was just like, and so, okay, so he said this. He goes, look, the reason why your brothers and sisters, maybe friends at school, and, people in your life have just been mean to you, he goes, because you're so good at what you do. I'm like, what? He goes, well, look. He goes, look at all the things you've accomplished. I'm like, yeah. He goes, they think in their eyes, the way they're going to make it fair is they're going to hurt you. They're going to attack you. They're going to beat you down. They're going to push you down. He goes, therefore, now life's fair because you don't have any problems. I'm like, but I did have problems. I had more problems than them. He goes, no, I know, but they didn't see that. So he said it's jealousy. I'm like, oh yeah. I go, oh yeah, I've seen that for years now. I like, especially when you learn about narcissists, like, it's all jealousy, right? He goes, yeah, so in their eyes, they were pissed off and they were hurt and they were mad because here you are succeeding and doing what you want, and they don't see any of the struggle, so they assume, oh, his life must just be easy, so now I'm going to hammer him and constantly remind him of what pain that we're going through. So he had also said, yeah, he goes, the reason why you work so hard at everything is because you wanted to be good enough, because no matter what you did, you weren't good enough. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly right. I don't think he said that part, but I think he said something that caused me to say, yeah, no matter what I did, it was never good enough, because they would tell me, oh, who cares? That's, so what if you won the state championship? So what if you did it? And the thing about it is, it really made me feel like I was nothing. And this is what causes, I can't think of the name. It's called something syndrome. It causes, let me see if I can figure it out. Hold on. Yeah, so it's called imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome. Before, I thought it meant people that would go around purposely being fake and acting like they were something that they weren't. No, it's not. It's when you win a state championship or a national title, or you get straight A's for 5 years, you don't feel like you're actually that good. In fact, I am going to tell you right now, when I won the state championship, even to this day, I don't think that was that big of an accomplishment at all. I think it, like, almost as if like it shouldn't even be noticed. Like it was nothing. Like it was like going to practice one day. Same thing in kickboxing when it's ranked number 1 in the nation. To this day, I'm like, man, that was nothing. I literally feel that way. Like, yeah, it was absolutely nothing. It was like, yeah, I went to the grocery store, bought some cheese, bought some milk, got some eggs. That's what I did today. Like, that's literally what that is equivalent to. And on top of it, the reason why I was doing this is because I wanted my family and friends and people to be nice to me, to be kind to me, because people were brutal. It wasn't just my family. It was classmates. It was teammates. It was just like all these people hammered the fuck out of me. And I'm like, all I'm trying to do is be a good person here. And even that, I worked hard at being a good person. Because all I ever heard was the opposite of that. So I was like, okay, well, I got to work hard to be that. When turns out I was the best person in the room. I was actually really good at what I did, and on and on and on. Even saying that right now is actually really hard to say. Because it's hard to believe. That's imposter syndrome. So as he's talking about how his mother loves him and cherishes him, and here's what he said. He goes, I could go home right now with my girlfriend, and my mother would let us live with her for free. She would buy me clothes. She would give me money. She would give me a car. He goes, my mother loves me. He goes, Michael, I'm not homeless because I have to be. He goes, and I'm like, so, now this is the mind-blowing part. He just said, he goes, no matter what I do, I'm not good enough. I'm like, what are you talking about? Your mother sings praises of you. He goes, Michael, she set the bar so high. I'll never be there. All my neighbors and my friends have heard like I'm the president of the United States, or like I'm, Lou Gehrig, or I'm Babe Ruth, or I'm, Muhammad Ali. He goes, I'm not like those guys. I'm not that good. So I said, your problem is you literally have no problems. And he's like, yeah, he goes, that's my problem. Now here's the deal. The guy definitely had social skills. He could open a conversation. He could carry a conversation. He was brilliant at the tech work that he did. And when I say brilliant, I don't mean like, oh, he was pretty good. He did a good job. No, I mean, this guy was above heads. This guy was above the level. But here's the thing. He didn't think he was any good, no matter what he did. If you were in the conversation, you would listen to how he was describing this thing that he developed. I mean, I was halfway through, I was like, oh, this guy's smart. Like, this guy has a skill. This guy is brilliant at what he does. But unless he gets a Nobel Peace Prize for it, or he gets a world-renowned award for it, or he is considered to be the next Einstein, or is the next Einstein, he's not good enough. And that's exactly how I felt my whole life. Now, admittedly, it drove us to learn and practice and develop and really get good at our skill level. But here's the really weird thing. You still don't feel good enough. Good enough to even go home, be around his neighbors, be around his family. Even me, the same thing. It's just like, you don't feel good enough to even go to the fucking grocery store. Now, and I'm looking at this guy. You know how I talk about in the book of Genesis and the serpent and the forbidden fruit, and how he tells Adam and Eve, oh, you're naked, and that's wrong. Shame, shame, shame. And then they literally, immediately after, they hide from God. This is what I'm talking about. This young man literally was hiding from the world. He was so ashamed of himself. I'm telling you, if you met this guy, you'd be like, dude, this guy's smart. Not just smart, but someone who's actually produced stuff that actually proves his level of skill. Now, here's the really weird thing. We came from total opposite experiences. He came from this genuinely kind, caring, loving woman that just cherished her son. He tied his shoe, and man, he deserved an award for it. I win a state championship, and I get the shit kicked out of me. I get punished for it. I'm told I'm no good. And yet, we had the exact same problem. Now, here's the interesting thing that happened in my brain. As I was sitting, we're sitting on the curb, kind of like at the angle of the parking lot. I'm looking at this guy. I'm like, this guy has no problems. Like, he literally, there's literally no problem here. And then I'm realizing, like, oh, this is an illusion. Like, I understand what he's saying. Like, his mother praised him beyond what he should have been. It's kind of like, how they're saying everyone's getting a participation award. Like, oh, you get a first place trophy for losing. It's like, I get that's what his mother was doing to him. And he was like, dude, like, that completely just, like, it was like, how do I live up to that? And yet with me, no matter what I accomplished, I got punished, I got ignored, like, who cares, no big deal, that was nothing. It was like, no matter how hard I worked, like, nothing I did mattered. Like, it wasn't good enough. And it's like, it makes you feel like you don't matter. It makes you feel like nothing you do is good enough. Now, as I'm looking at this guy, realizing, like, man, he's living in an illusion, I'm like, wait a minute, so am I. And then it's like, when you guys play dodgeball with that big orange or red ball, and when it hits you in the face, it goes pong, and your whole brain, your whole spiritual awareness expands out to the universe. It was kind of like that. When I had this realization, when I'm looking at him like, this guy doesn't have any, I'm like, oh, this is just an illusion. And I was like, oh, like, this was a mirror reverse image of me, but from the other side. And the funny thing is, we are having this same exact illusion of, I'm not good enough. We both felt that, even though he was praised, he was loved, he was cared for, and I came from a very brutally painful background of, you suck, you're no good, and we're going to punish you and beat the shit out of you. And yet there we were, almost looking across the table, or since it wasn't a table, we're sitting on the curb in this parking lot, and I'm having this like fucking mind-blowing experience of, wow. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah. I get that everything that happened to him was real. His mother really did those nice things. And I get that everything bad that happened to me was real, because I went through a lot of hell. But the after effect, that's the illusion. Now here's the funny thing. As if it hasn't gotten weird enough. I started telling, because he kept saying, like, dude, I'm a total fuck up. Now here's the weird thing. I've always felt like I was a total fuck up, and yet I would always tie my shoes, put things in place, do things in the right way, study, learn, do the right thing, and yet I always felt like a fuck up, even though I wasn't. So I'm looking at him like, I don't think you're actually a fuck up. And he goes, what? I go, dude, you're a really smart guy. I go, you're pretty brilliant. I go, dude, you got social skills. Most people your age can't fucking open their mouth and even talk to a complete stranger, let alone carry on this deep of a conversation. So he instantly leans away. I'm like, oh, what's wrong with this guy? He goes, hey man, I gotta go. We've talked for a while. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I said, hey man, thanks. This really meant a lot to me. Like, this changed. I'm like, yeah, okay, dude, I gotta go, man. I gotta go. And he's just like, whoa, what the fuck, man? So I went into Walgreens, bought what I bought, and I came back out, and he had came back and he's like, hey Mike, and I turned like, oh hey, what's up, man? He's like, hey man, I wanted to say something. And so we started talking and having the same conversation, and I was just blown away. And then once again I said, dude, you're a good person, man. You can do this and I'm just going into this very positive, complimentary, like, man, you're a good person, you're fucking smart. And he goes, hey man, you know what? I gotta go, dude. I'm like, no, dude, I go, dude, I'm not joking. I mean that. He goes, yeah, I get it. He goes, that's what my mom used to do. And another dodgeball came flying at my face and pong. And I start laughing and grinning ear to ear. And he turns around and he looks at me. He's like, dude, I get it. I go, this actually hurts you. He goes, yeah. He goes, I can't stand when people talk well of me. I can't stand when people compliment me, tell me I'm a good person. He goes, I don't want to hear it anymore. Man, I got to tell you something. I was blown away. Now, a lot of us can't even relate. Probably the empaths, because we're used to getting abused and never being complimented or ever even acknowledged that we've done one thing right in our lives. And yet this guy, that's all he has heard. How great he is. How everything he does is the best in the world. And then on top of it, his mother would go and tell the neighbors, friends, family, cousins, relatives, brothers, sisters. And everyone's like, everyone's looking at him like, so you're this great, so you're the next Abraham Lincoln. You're the next Einstein. You're the next Eddie Van Halen. You're the next fucking Babe Ruth. And he's like, fuck, I can't live up to that standard. Give me some crystal meth. Let me hide. And then Mike steps and says, man, you're amazing. You're awesome. And then he crawls behind the bush, behind the Walgreens. Now I'm laughing, but I'm telling you what, this is an actual issue that this guy has. Now here's the deal. All of us on this channel can hopefully be like, oh, this is an illusion. This is a mental illusion. It's not fucking real. Now here's the thing I said to the guy, and some of you might be this people I'm talking about. I had said, look, man, do you realize that most therapists you went to, if you told them that your problem is that you have no problems and that your mother loved you and cherished you and spoke well of you, do you realize they would literally look at you like, what? I go, they wouldn't understand. He goes, no. He goes, I know. I go, do you realize if you complained like this to people, they're going to look at you and be like, so let me get it straight. So your life's all fucked up because you had love, caring, compassion, you had a roof over your head, you got a good education, you grew up in a good family, your mother spoke well of you to other people. I go, people were going to look at you like you're this fucking spoiled baby. He goes, no. He goes, I know. Hey, and if you don't understand this, trust me, I get it. Like I'm going through, man, I don't know how to explain this. I'm going through some kind of conscious awareness that, and I told him, honestly, if you told me this a while back, 6 months, a year, or I forget how long I went back, I go, I would probably have looked, oh, okay, buddy, hey, you have a nice day. Especially me, after what I went through, and this guy's telling me, yeah, I got presents and gifts and love and money and vacation and a car and this and that, and my life's horrible. Like, what? So I have to tell you, early on in this conversation, not even the middle, before that, I was like, oh, this is one of those conversations that's meant to be. This was a deep conversation. I'm looking at this guy like he's young. He obviously a drug addict, yet, man, this conversation was unbelievable. I had realized fairly early on, like this was a conversation I was meant to hear. It was like the bar was set way too high to anything he could ever accomplish. And for me, no matter how high I pushed the bar, how far I went over the bar, it was never good enough. And he goes, yeah, so he goes, that's exactly how I feel. Because no matter what I do, it's never going to be good enough. Because he'll never be able to live up to that standard. So it pushed him in life. You could tell this guy was smart. This guy was well read. This guy, he knew his shit in his industry. And he was like, he still didn't feel like it was good enough. And it's crippling. It's debilitating. It causes you literally, physically to hide from the world. I also realized one of my I had this realization just a few days ago. Like, there's this neighbor of mine that always needs help working on his car, or needs this or that. Not always, but sometimes I just see him doing something, and I'll just walk down and say, hey man, do you need some help with that? He's like, yeah man, can you hold this? Can you do that? Like, yeah. And I've only helped him a few times, but I notice he kind of almost gets pissed. And sometimes, even though he needs help, he's like, no, I don't need help. And I'm like, no, dude, I'll help you. It's no big deal, because that's just the way I am. And yet a lot of times it pissed him off, and I noticed that. So I'm like, yeah, when I hear him tooling around on his car, I was like, I don't go down anymore. I was like, okay, well, because he gets pissed. I'm like, but I'm like, well, why? Like, why would someone get mad at that? I've never said, oh, you owe me or anything like that at all. And I don't have that mentality. So after the very end, when I complimented the guy, and he was just like, I got to go, man, I can't talk. I'm like, what the fuck's this guy? It was like night and day. Like, whoa, what happened? And he's like, dude, you're just like my mom. Like, you're doing the same thing. I was like, oh, I get it. So I started looking at my interactions with a lot of people like, oh, so when I go to help them, they're taking it as, who knows what it could be. but they might take it as, oh, what do you think? I can't do it myself. I can't take care of myself. Or, oh, do you think, it's like I started realizing like the whole, like, what's the word? The whole dynamic of interactions with people. Like I realized even working with my clients, because I'm all about complimenting people, building up people's self-esteem, and like, you can do it, because being in sports, like our coaches always did that to us. And it's like it causes me to take a real big step back on, okay, you've got to really learn about someone over a period of time, because you might think you're doing this really good thing, like, oh, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, oh, you're so smart, oh, it's like, and yet that may be the very thing that's pissing them off. Like something a lot of people have said to me is like, what do you think, you're better than me? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, because here's the thing, because I've never felt that way. I felt the complete opposite, like I wasn't good enough. But when I compliment someone or do something positive like that, they take it as, oh, so you think you're above me and you're telling me what to do and how I should feel, and oh, like you're trying to lift me up because you're better than me. It's like, no, I'm trying to basically, how do I explain this? Basically show you that I'm good enough. So not coming from top down, but from down up. You know what I'm saying? And yet they may not take it like that. They may flip it and be like, oh, you think you're above me, or telling me what to do, or trying to, get me to be confident. Like, I'm confident, I don't need you. It's like it makes them feel like you're above them. I tell you what, I'm going to go to bed right now. I'm exhausted, tired. I have a feeling a lot of realizations are going to start popping up in the next couple of days. And I think a lot of freedom, a lot of emotional enjoyment, and a lot of power. It's like the brakes are off, and it's like, because when you don't feel good enough, no matter how good you are, so you just kind of like hold back. You try to be perfect. You try, I'm not good enough. But I think when all that goes away, I think it's gonna be a lot more flow, a lot more fluid, and a lot more powerful. Hey guys, I hope this video helped you. I know I didn't probably put this perfectly, but I had to throw this out there because it had such an impact on me, and I think it's going to have a greater impact over the next couple days and weeks. Hey, God bless you guys. I will see you in the next video. Remember, click subscribe, click like, make a comment. And of course, if you'd like to make a donation, there's a PayPal link right there in the description. God bless you guys. See you in the next video. Bye.